Hey guys, RC here, and today I'm going to be going over Guardian and Ironeye
Well, also
relic
you're playing
builds. These are
Duchess.
relics you'll
She
be able to
doesn't use
get without
melee as
gambling.
much
You
as
just get them
standard.
from missions and whatnot.
That's
There's
why
going to be
when
three
I was
games. The
talking
first game
about
is
in
the
my
Guardian
Relic
build
video, and I was
without
talking about
extended
Relic
skill duration,
Affection, which
and the
wasn't
second
good.
game is the
I
Guardian
believe I
build
talked
with
about
extended
success
skill
extra
duration.
stam, and I brought
And
up
then the
how he's
third
kind
game
of
is just a pure
good on any
damage
bench sets of Executor and
Ironeye
Duchess
build.
because he gets such
I will note,
minute
if you
amount
do
of
hear me in
stam.
these clips, I am a little sick at the time of when these were
It's okay because
recorded,
it is
so
a little
bear in mind with me. Have a rockin' day.
crystal.
So in this short clip, I want to showcase the power of just two-handing
Okay,
your
why
halberd
both of
Guardian.
you
Guardian
fuckers
has a
gotta go
unique
after me
move
at
set with
once? Come on now.
halberds, and when you two-hand them, he does a spin with charged heavies, does really good posture damage, and you're able to break posture on enemies pretty easy. Of course, since Guardian has lesser dodges, you have to be careful of this, but generally it's pretty solid.
Yeah, Colossal Greatsword too.
So in these few clips, I want to showcase the difference between using a halberd and any other thrusting weapon. When you block and get knocked back, if you're using a halberd, you can do a charge forward if you hold heavy and make up that distance, while if you use any other thrusting weapon, you get knocked back too far and generally
That
can't
sucks.
get
Attacks that
your
knock me back
counterattack
on
damage,
block, I don't
which
get value out of.
immensely affects your DPS and can be really, really annoying to deal with. So try to stick with halberds on Guardian. This is game 2,
Yeah,
and as you can see, I'm trying to whirlwind the boss and keep aggro on me. It's
yeah,
very effective as long as you keep doing halberds and poking the damage. I was allowing my duchesses just to go in and just stack up status effects and wail on the boss and rewind the damage because he was so focused on me. And I intentionally walked up to him to eat that attack with my full guard to do a little damage to him, allow me to get a thrusting counter for posture damage, and generate aggro. And right here, he's mid-combo on a Duchess, and he immediately starts going for me again because the Whirlwind ticked him so many times that he aggroed back onto me. That's why the extended skill duration is vital. It also will allow you to stun lock opponents, such as Banished Knights. Like over here, I mostly 1v1 these Banished Knights. I hit them with a Whirlwind, and they literally can't fight back. So I hit them some charged heavies to do some posture damage. And then I go ahead and ult them, because you don't want to be stingy with his ult when you're just going through camps. Your teammates generally should not be going down to normal encounters, and if they do, you should be able to just pick them up no problem without using your ult. So use your ult to clear camps and be as efficient as possible.
It did the posture
because you got to make up for that lackluster early game damage you do. A lot of your damage comes from those thrusting counterattacks, or not thrusting counterattacks, but the counterattacks from blocking.
Fucking scam,
and
yeah.
You can't just sit there and hold block for 5 minutes waiting for your turn to hit them because you're falling off on damage. Also, you can see I grabbed a random halberd even if it didn't have a good passive, and a random shield even if it didn't have a good passive. Oh, great shield specifically. It's because generally it's not good to stick with your starting weapons on Guardian. If you can find a more upgraded great shield, take it, or a more upgraded halberd, just take it. Right here, I'll showcase the damage reflected. So my Duchesses went down, and you'll notice as I'm blocking damage, it will do a little AoE damage spear. And as long as I'm near this Duchess, that revive bar is going to go down. I also hit them with a Whirlwind here, because not only does hitting your own teammates with it give you stand back for each tick of the tornado damage, but it also pauses the revive timer because it does slivers of damage. And right there, I revived them with the reflected damage, and then I revived the other one with my ult. And I held my ult here because if you hold your ult, you and your team have invincibility and they heal. So I just allowed them to eat that lightning nuke. Alright, group up on me. I should have waited a little later. I'm not going to fully use it, you just have to run.
Staggered. GG. The bird goat. Love the bird. So the relic build you'll run on Guardian is, in my opinion, it's not bad, but the main thing you're missing is the increased skill duration, which unfortunately, no matter what combination of chalices you have, unless you natty roll it on a good relic that already has it in the right kind of colors, you're not going to be able to have it with any of Guardian's base chalices with relics you can just get from doing missions or from shops. So the first relic we're using is Polished Drizzly Scene. When you are blocking, you will get aggro from the boss, and then it also gives you +3 Vig, but the Vig part's kind of niche. You can get this, I think, after beating 1 or 2 Night Lords from the little Jar Boy shop right over there at the end of the hall. You can buy it from him. Now, I've found with a lot of testing that guarding takes aggro can be really iffy. Sometimes it doesn't work, and generally the Whirlwind will just do a better job at keeping aggro on you, because if you're hitting the boss, doesn't matter how much damage you're doing, as long as you're consistently hitting the boss, they will go for you. So if you have something that has the increased wind duration, again, I can't stress enough, you should run that. Alternatively, in this blue slot, you could run like Knight of the Baron, which is also a good slot filler, because Guardian can break posture really easily with the guard counters from the shield. It also will give you your ult back a little faster on the crits. Against bosses, this won't happen too often unless you're using a halberd. Like as you saw in the previous footage, anything that isn't a halberd, when you do a block and a counterattack, if you hold heavy, you'll be able to go, full distance, even if you get knocked back, but that's only on halberds that can do that. Any other thrusting weapon does not close that distance, which will heavily hinder your DPS, because you'll block and you're not even going to be able to hit the boss because the thrust range is so very short, and that's really annoying. The stamina recovery boost is great on the crits. The improved crit damage is fine. That's a great alternative. You get that from normal Adele. The must-have relic, unless you have 2 decent relics that have the healing allies and reflect damage, is Witch's Brooch, because Witch's Brooch will give you that healing allies, which is just absurd, because when you revive someone with your ult, they'll be revived at about half HP. But if you hold down your ult button, you have an invincibility field, your teammates and yourself take no damage, and all of you heal while in that radius. So you can have your teammates just wail on the boss while you're holding down your ult, and they don't need to worry about using their flasks. They just get fully healed up from your ult. The reflect portion of damage received when ability is activated, so when you're in full guard, you'll do a little burst of damage, and with smaller enemies, this can stun them and interrupt their combos, like Banished Knights. Does not work on Crucible Knights, and Crucible Knights are going to be kind of a pain in the ass, because they will combo. You'll have very limited windows to even do a counterattack, but you'll have windows to get stam. So really all you're doing with Crucible Knights as Guardian, primarily, unless you're willing to trade hits, is just blocking and letting the reflect damage whittle them down as your team wails on them. But this allows you to do passive damage, and it generates boss aggro, because you're still damaging the boss even when blocking. The issue with Guardian a lot of time is you're blocking, you're taking aggro, that's nice, but you're not doing any DPS. So this allows you to kind of fill in that gap and allow you to do damage while also doing your job of taking aggro and blocking, and it helps you keep that aggro. Next one we run is Knight of the Champion. You get this from normal Dark Drift Knight. I do not recommend his Everdark Relic. It's generally terrible. It increases your max stam by only 10. So it's not that big of an increase. It's not percentile either, so it does not scale as you level. But the guard counter is given a boost based on current HP is great. You do a lot more damage with your thrusting attacks from block, and then you get HP restoration from thrusting counterattacks. Now, to specify what a thrusting counterattack is, it is not what you think. It's not block then attack the boss right after a block. That would make sense, but this is a From Software game, so that isn't how it works. Thrust and counterattacks are when you hit the boss while they're doing an attack animation. So you can block, and then depending on what you're fighting, whether it staggers you, whether it misses, whatever, you'll be able to hit them with that charged halberd attack and get some of your health back too. But it has to be attacks that are worth the damage trade-off. So this can be niche against bosses, great for just trying to clear camps and not use your heals. Now, alternatively, you could run a build with Guardian's Chalice, and you can run the Everjail Relic from the Sigil shop in the yellow slot, Witch's Brooch in the blue slot, which I'm not sure if I said this. You get it from his Remembrance. You complete his Remembrance, you get Witch's Brooch. It doesn't matter if it's cracked Witch's Brooch or normal Witch's Brooch, you get the same, it's the same relic, just a different look to it. And then in your clear slot, you can run Grand Burning Scene if you're willing to not have the increased skill cooldown. But if you really want it, and I highly recommend it, it's very useful for him, you can then run the Stone Stake, which will then do the Continuous Whirlwind. Continuous Whirlwind is just such a must-have. Like, you can get by without it, but the constant hitting the boss will generate the aggro so well. And then you also have smaller camp enemies and even some bosses, they get stun locked while in the tornado, and you don't need to worry about it. And then also, depending on what kind of relic setup you have, so with mine, I'm using the Sigil Shop Red Relic because it has stamina recovers of each successful attack. That is really good because your Whirlwind counts as successful attacks. So you can Whirlwind an enemy and passively get your stam back as it's damaging them. And you get improved stance break and wielding 2 ornaments. So your shield and your halberd, you're always going to have 2 ornaments at once. So you'll have that nice stance break, and the counter attacks from the guard counters. They do great poise damage, like insane poise damage. So this on top of that is dirty. Plus you get more stam. Stam is like the main thing you want on Guardian. That is his life. Unfortunately, in order to get the best kind of Guardian build you need to get a decent relic that has the increased skill duration and 2 other good effects. So you'll have a generally mid build on Guardian until you get lucky on RNG, which is upsetting because majority of the characters in this game, you can just use relics you get from shops and have a full-fledged, fully viable, really good build. Guardian doesn't quite have that leeway. That should be generally what you should go for on Guardian until you get a good Whirlwind, is you want to run something like this. And like I said, alternatively, you can run with his Remembrance Chalice, which again you get from his Remembrance Quest. You can run Brooch, Everjail Relic, and the Stance Breaking or the Stake, which again, the Stake you get from his Remembrance for the increased character skill. And you should be pretty solid. Like the main complaint people have with Guardian is, yeah, he can tank like just about everything, but he does no damage. If you do builds like this, you're actually balancing the best of both worlds, and you'll be able to get good damage.
So next up, we have the Ironeye build. Now this build uses the Night Lord's Relic, the Night aspect. Now this build can be a little tedious because you're going to be constantly swapping your bow on and off to get the damage buff and to apply affinities to it. If you don't really care about applying the affinities, it's not necessary, but you are going to reduce your DPS.
Also,
this is mostly like a full-on DPS build, and you'll notice with a lot of these fights, you're doing chunks per arrow shot.
Now, know for sure.
It's not
for certain,
that impressive looking in the footage, but trust me, with Ironeye doing like noticeable chunks per shot with his bow, like that's not normal. Like that is actually insane damage. So right here, I mark and then ult the Spanish Knights because your ult does damage to the mark, and if the mark breaks, they take a chunk more damage. And I do more damage to them with thrusting counter attacks, which are when I attack them while they're in an attack animation,
No.
and I do more damage to them while they're poisoned. All this happens from one use of my ult. It doesn't need to even be fully charged.
Nice, holy damage.
So right here, when I get holy damage on my bow, you'll notice when I'm hitting the wolves to do that little flash. It's because with Tricephalos, his weakness is holy, and when they do that little flash, they have reduced damage and I think reduced defense. Maybe just reduced defense, I can't quite remember. And I managed to apply it on all 3 of them here. Just rapid succession, debuff them. That one somehow lost its buff. I don't know how, but you did see all 3 of them did the animation, so I did apply it on all 3 of them.
I try to use my skill. It actually used my skill, it just didn't give me iframes. That's cooked. Oh, that hits. Okay. What? No iframe? I got robbed, man.
Another thing I want to point out for this is I got like no good Ironeye passes on my weapons this run. I got like maybe 1 increased range damage. I got no damage fall off range like at all.
Easy.
So this is like bare bones of what it can do without like
Easiest
good
boss in the
passes,
game,
pretty
but
much.
still. So if Ironeye's build, you run the Grand Burning Scene Relic, which you get from the Sigil shop. It makes your ult apply poison, it increases your damage against poison enemies, and it gives you ultimate engage +3, which essentially is passive ult generation while in combat. So you're able to use your ult pretty consistently, and you get that nice damage boost. Next, we're using Knight of the Lord, which is a relic you get for beating Hollister, also known as Aspect of the Night. And essentially what you're doing with this is you're switching your weapon constantly, so that way you get the affinity damage boost, you get the just damage boost for swapping your weapon, and then you also get an added affinity onto your weapon, which is nice. If this is too late game for you, or you're not like ready to fight Hollister, you could alternatively run Knight of the Baron if you're solo and going for crits, which is solid. And then I'll go over another build you could run after I'm done with this chalice. Edge of Order, I think you should run on basically any Ironeye build. It's really good. The boosted thrusting counterattacks after ult. Now, what that means is as long as you're shooting the boss while they're doing attacks, doesn't matter if they're aggroed on you or whatever, you will do extra damage to them, but you have to do it after you ult, which is easy enough to do. And then improved bow attack power, just flat out boosts your damage on bows. That's great. Starting armament deals holy damage. That's negligible. That doesn't really matter. You'll probably trade out your beginner bow for a better one if you could find a better one. And then even then, you will be using Knight of the Lord to change what affinity your weapon's doing. So, and you get Edge of Order from his Remembrance. You got to complete his Remembrance, almost complete it. Technically, there's another step, but you get this before completing it fully. You have to beat Fulgor to get this, but this is like a must-have on Ironeye. Now, of course, if you don't have Knight of the Lord from beating Knight Aspect, you could run a build using something like Not at the Beast. Again, not doing it for the fire attack. It's for the successful attack stamp, because I'm pretty sure successful attacks work, successive don't work with characters. There's not really good slots for Ironeye, unfortunately, so this middle perk is going to be really subjective as to what you could run. Like, if you have something good, you can throw it there. But generally, you're going to just try and get this build. Now, you are sacrificing the double skill charge. I will say double skill charge is nice. You get the extra use for the iframes, for movement, to help maintain marking, but generally, if you're playing aggressively, you wouldn't need to worry about not maintaining mark. I think it's like Wilder's extra grapple. It's not necessary for Ironeye. It's not just like the grapple isn't necessary for Wilder. It's just nice to have. You can do without it. So if you do have a relic that's blue that gives you that extra skill use, or even on this chalice a green that gives extra skill use like I have with this build, then I would say go for it. But generally it's not like something you need, or you're falling behind. This is the best just raw damage you can get with any bow that I've discovered that you can just get without gambling. There's other combos that some people do where they'll be dual wielding bows and they'll use the initial standard attack. So the initial standard attack is your first shot. Now, if you're running dual wield bows and you have 3 relics of this effect, you can press R1 or whatever on PC and console, Xbox. You can do shoot one bow, then shoot the other bow, and just keep alternating between them, and it does decent damage. Generally, though, the odds of you getting 3 initial standard attack relics that are also decent is very unlikely. So I would just recommend you focus on one build, like one bow, and build around that. This is the most efficient build that I've come up with these relics that you're guaranteed to get just by playing the game. And what's really nice about it compared to, like, say, Executor is you don't need to use your starting bow. You can just differentiate between any bow and you'll still get like the full effects. The only thing you miss out on is the starting armament does holy damage, which does not matter in the slightest.